Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever the case may be. Global fan base and that, you're all very, very welcome wherever you are on this beautiful planet of ours. Hope you've all had a wonderful day, or hope you're all about to have a wonderful day. And welcome to Grizz Khan's Daily Grizz. Roundup of all the footballing headlines of the day. And always remember, if we've forgotten anything, remind us in the chat. Anything you want to talk about, because I love talking football, and I love talking football with Steve Plunkett. All right, mate, how you been? It's like we haven't bloody chatted for ages. Seems like, you know, we ain't done a stream for about 2 days. That's mad for us.
That's totally unacceptable. What on earth have you been doing? Yeah, mate, it was good, and I'm still in shock. I managed to mug us all off with the draft, mate. So yeah, that was criminal, absolutely criminal. But apart from that, mate, I'm sound and looking forward to chatting with you and Joe this evening.
I don't look. I'm not having you having a go at me like that, because like what was criminal about it, right, Joe? Basically, we done a draft, okay, and you know how these drafts, right? Like drafts can go wild, can't they? Because that's the way drafts are supposed to go wild, right? And we put it to the Twitterati, and we didn't say whose team's A, whose team's B, whose team's D. It just so happens my team won by 1%. It was the best, like, what was it, 26% and then 25%, like, brilliantly close. But I mean, do you see any manipulation there? Do I come across as a guy that I would have manipulated the voters, influenced Twitter in any way, shape, or form? You've known me ages.
You've got the following, bro, haven't you? You know what I mean? You've got the following.
But this is my point. We didn't name whose team's what. We just named it Team Orange, Blue. But look, joking aside, Steve's team was quite good. But listen, that's what is amazing about football, isn't it? Opinions vary, and we were shocked with the opinions. But listen, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We're going to do another draft, which was an amazing success. It was really good fun. We're going to get Joe on, actually. I'm going to message him. I'm going to get him on. Yeah, he'll be brilliant for that. We'll get you on a draft show as well. But obviously, as you can tell people, I've got Joe Wayman in, Leeds fan for his sins. Joe, welcome back to the channel, my friend.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me on. It's nice to be back with you, man. Grizz is one of the big dogs, isn't he? You know what I mean? From the the big six, man. It's the GOAT show, so I just enjoy it, man. So like any connection with you guys.
Today, let me tell you, the big dog's got the hosting duties today. Oh shit! So
is Turkish still there? Because Turkish gets away with a lot because he's the host, man. He's quiet sometimes. Someone needs to go.
He's sitting in Dubai, so I've been voted in to host because there's going to be a lot of things to talk about. It's going to get hectic. But listen, bringing it back to real hardcore football chat. And Steve, I'll start off with you. Today we get news from Sport Bild from Germany, one of the leading newspapers in Germany, that have put out in the public, as they do, Dortmund, that Jude Bellingham is not for sale. That's the opening line. Jude Bellingham is not for sale this summer unless, and we won't even entertain offers less than 120 million euros. Very, very similar wording, very similar storyline to the Sancho. Do you remember the Sancho scenario and the situation where they told us exactly the same fee? Man United, 120 million euros. Come and talk to us. Otherwise, don't talk to us until next year. What's your take on version of events?
They're two very different entities. Sancho is obviously a wide man, and I think it's been proven in his first year at United. There's no guarantees that works. Now the price is out there, because we missed out on our original target, and we all know signed for Real Madrid, then get it done. And even if it's done with a pre-contract agreement, so he signs for us next year and we don't see him for 12 months, still get it done. This is the guy that is now our go-to, and this is the guy that we build our midfield around for the next 10 years. we've got some great players at the club. We know this. We talk about this all the time. They're not young. They're not guys you can build a team for the next 10 years around. So that's your linchpin. That's the guy that comes in there, and then you go, right, what do we add to that? Whether it's his brother, whether it's other people, what do we add to that to give ourselves a stranglehold of English football in the midfield for the next 10 years? If you sit by and do nothing, someone else will do it and take him out from under you, and then you're stuck because then you would have lost two of your central midfield targets, the two standout up-and-coming young central midfielders in world football. Now they've put a price out there that suggests to me they're willing to entertain a conversation. Manchester United just chose not to match their valuation of Sancho. They played that one well, although it hasn't particularly worked out well for them. They played that particular transfer saga really well. I don't think we can afford to mess around with this fella. And they have got money. We know they're in a really strong financial position at the moment. We know they're in the strongest financial position we've ever been in our history. So if you want to secure success for the years to come, then you have to speculate to accumulate and not sit by and watch someone else take him out from underneath us.
Interesting. So your take from what I've just listened to and heard you say, your take is we need to be positive, and you think we should be actively pursuing him if there's the slightest of encouragement, which suggests from today's news there is. You're saying we should actively pursue him now?
100%. And here's why. Because if he goes to the World Cup and is one of the stars of the World Cup, you can add another 40 million on his price tag. That's a risk. England will go far in that competition because international football, in terms of quality, has had a big drop-off in terms of versus club football. There's no comparison anymore. It used to be the other way around 20, 30 years ago. International football was kind of the pinnacle, but it's not anymore. It's played with freedom. There's no stress. There's no tension. There's no people getting sacked for results. So the games are quite open and they're quite enjoyable to watch from time to time. There's not too much riding on them in terms of people's jobs, like football managers and stuff. So if he goes and has a good World Cup, his price goes through the roof. If they put a price out there and we're serious and we go knock on the door tomorrow and say, there's your 120 million, I'm asking myself, why can't he be a Liverpool player this summer?
Interesting. Joe, I always love hearing a neutral's perspective. And I know, even though you're a hardcore Leeds fan, I know you know your football and you keep your wits about you, what's going on around the leagues and whatnot. What do you make of this? Jude Bellingham, England international, 19 years old, wonderful talent, wonderful player. Went out to Germany, which was a brilliant, brave move from him to try to get more game time experience. Done that. Champions League experience, Bundesliga experience, playing with brilliant players experience. And he's still only 19. The asking price, it seemingly is 120 million euros. Give us your overview if you know much about the player, and what do you think? 120 million euros, would you do that?
I mean, to be honest, 120 million euros, this might sound mad, right? But I think that's cheap. And what I mean for that, right? Because obviously that equates to about £100 million. So for me, I've always said, and I've said religiously, really, when he eventually moves, it will be probably between 100 and 150 million pounds. So if you can get him now at 120 million euros, which is about 103, I just had a look. I think it's good business. The thing for me, though, I don't see it happening this summer. Like, I was listening to something the other day. Is it Darren Lewis, the guy at the Mirror? He was, he was saying that he believes there's even shouts that they might make him captain this year, which might sound a bit mad, but that's what he said, like over in Dortmund, or whether that's, a bargaining chip to say, give us a little bit more time. But I mentioned that before and someone said, listen, Royce has been there for time. He's not going to give up the captaincy, etc. So maybe it is just Darren Lewis talking guff. But for me, he'll be the next big one, Warney. He'll be the next big signing. It'll be interesting to see who gets it done, Grizz, because I think it is a toss-up between yourself and City. I don't know what happens, because the interesting thing with Liverpool at the minute is obviously next season, where you'd imagine it's probably more likely. I don't see him moving this summer for me personally, but next season there's a big turnaround at Liverpool. You've got all these players that are out of contract, these Salahs, all these players will they, won't they? So then what does Klopp do? I don't know. I know this might sound mad, and I'm sorry to make the comparison, but I always remember when Fergie left Man United in the stuff, because he knew what was happening. Yeah, he knew that the squad was sort of like he couldn't regenerate. I'm not saying Klopp's going to do that, but is there going to be too many players leaving Liverpool at that time? Will it be as an attractive prospect? I think it probably will. I'm probably talking guff, but it'll be interesting to see what move Bellingham makes. But he will come back to the Premier League. It's a matter of when, not if, isn't it? And I can't wait for him to come back. On the England stuff as well, I don't think he'll play enough. I think for me, Gareth's wedded to Rice and Phillips in there, regardless of what people think he is. Obviously, I rate Phillips. I do. I know not a lot of people do, but his game will go to the next level at City under Pep. So I'm not sure Bellingham will play enough yet. If it was another coach, you'd have an argument. But I just don't think Gareth will put enough reliance on him in them big games. If we get further into the competition, just know I think he'll stick with Rice and Phillips if we do go far. So I don't know.
10 minutes into the stream, there's over 250 of you amazing people in here. You are smashing it, but you'd be smashing it even more if you smash the like button. Hit that like button for me. Love it. I would love it. Absolutely love it. Steve, Joe's convinced that this guy's value will only go up. Sancho's value went down, or the eventual price went down. Sancho, I think, had 2 seasons. Correct me if I'm wrong, people. Didn't he have 2 wonderful seasons as opposed to just the one Bellingham's had? What was the difference then? Because Sancho was the most sought after talent around Europe. Eventually, we know he went for around 75 million, guys, something like that, when they were asking the same thing.
Yeah.
What's to say? Because if Joe's theory is right about him not playing enough in the World Cup, and I kind of agree with Joe, he's not going to get much game time in England, in England colours. What's to say that he doesn't have an amazing start to the season that he had this season in Dortmund? Because me personally, I think Dortmund are going to struggle. When I say struggle, I don't think they're going to compete without Haaland and the signings they made. They don't inspire me. That's just me. I could be wrong, and I'll get slapped for it. No problem. You know what I'm like. I love getting slapped now and again. But what if his price goes down? Is there a case of sitting tight and assessing the situation? Because it's a lot of money, 30, 40 million euros. That's another player that you could purchase for that price. Yeah. Or are you saying no? His price will go up, take the plunge now, by hook or by crook?
I mean, if what we're being told is that he's the man, and they're nailed on for him, and the club are in love with him, and he wants us, and we want him, then sometimes you have to bite the bullet a little bit and pay what you think you need to get a player. And I'm not talking, like Joe says, it's not overly expensive in the modern world for a footballer.
Mad as it sounds, I kind of agree. You're right.
You could look at Jack Grealish's move to Manchester City and say he's a £100 million player. He just became a cog in the machine rather than the biggest cog in the machine. Is he a waste of money at 100 million? No, because he contributed to what they did. So he hasn't set the world alight. If you wait till next season and you look at Bellingham and you look at the centre midfield possibilities for Liverpool, for the future, the 2 players that you would want are both at Real Madrid, Camavinga and Tchouaméni, and then you look at Bellingham. Those 3 guys, sort of around 21, 22 age, with the whole of world football at their feet in terms of centre midfield, they're the 3 go-tos, and 2 of them are completely inaccessible. So imagine if Real Madrid made that a trio, made it a position where they had all 3 of them. Well, football should be very worried about that going forward, because that's a ridiculous platform to build on. And I've said to you many times, Grizz, I think when Real Madrid make a move, and now there's a number out there, don't be surprised if they don't, that Liverpool have got to strike quickly and get this done, because if they don't, Real Madrid will find the money however they do it. I'm not getting into that because that's politically, loads of shit to talk about there, isn't there? But they'll find the money to do it. We can't be I said it before, we can't be left behind on this fella. If he is what we think he is, and he is what the club wants, and he wants the football club, just get it done, because that's a generation. When I say generational, I don't mean generational as in skill and ability and quality, and I don't like that phrase, because you can only be generational when your career's over and you look back and say he was the best of his generation. It's a generational signing because of signing him for the next 10 years, which is a football generation within itself, is what I'm trying to say.
I tell you what it is. I know exactly what you mean, and it's the frame. It's the phrase that a lot of people use when it comes to Liverpool transfers and big transfers, and what we're looking for. What we're looking for is game changers. We know Liverpool pay big money for game changers. Van Dijk, game changer. Alisson, game changer. We're now hoping Nunes, again, a young striker that's going to be a game changer for the next 5-6 years for us. And we've spent big. Absolutely, Jude Bellingham comes in that category of game changer in our midfield, because, as Joe says, a lot of doubt, and rightly so, about the midfield, especially about the age of our midfield. Milner, Henderson, surely their last couple of seasons. Well, Milner's definitely last season. Henderson will become probably the Milner of the the kind of squad rotator, filler in everything. And then you've got Thiago, who's not getting younger. So there's absolutely a need for a game changer of a central midfielder, English-born, home quotas is not an issue. Talent is there. It's not just the English thing, it's the talent. The talent is there. I'm of the opinion that if there's an opportunity to go and get him this window, we try our damnedest. And you know what, Joe? I know you were saying you can't see it happening. Shall I tell you what I was thinking the other day? I don't think they work on one player a window. I think Dortmund would look at money like through a window. So, for example, you got to remember, Haaland was only 70 million in the end, or 65 million.
Yeah.
So they haven't got, even though they've spent that money, they still would need a bit more money. I think money talks for them. I don't think it's one per season, one player per season. I think it's like a figure per season. So if someone was to offer them around that 110 million mark, I think there's a conversation to be had, and I think they'd be up for it, Joe. That's just what's making me think we could have a monumental end to the transfer window.
Do you envisage it happening? Like, I agree completely with what's been said. At 19-year-old, you are basically buying a player that solidifies his future. Especially when you go to Liverpool, there's probably only one more club at the minute that you'd move to, and that's Real Madrid. Do you know what I mean? I'm thinking he's almost then setting his stall out and saying, right, I'm at Liverpool here for the next 10 years. Do you know what I mean? This is what it is. And I get that. And I agree with what's been said about getting him now. There's even a conversation, I hate to say it, but you don't know what Man United might look like in a season or two time, under Ten Hag. You just never know. I know that's wild, but they wouldn't be, shy in stumping up the cash. I agree with what's been said of, if you can get it done, get it done. But I don't know. I just, do you think you have to? I know, like you've said, if it needs doing, and it's a world-class player, like you did with Van Dijk, like you did with Becker, you could go out and say, right, let's get Nunes and let's get Bellingham, which would be an awesome window. But do you think Liverpool will do it? Like, I'll put it back to you. Do you think?
I think like Steve, I think we have the capacity for the first time in a long time, Joe, to actually go for something like this. Let's not forget that we literally, and I put this out there on social media, we had a deal agreed with Tchouaméni for the region of 55 million. And we were always going to replace Mane because we knew Mane was going from time. So Nunes was always in the background. That's a lot of money we were ready to spend. We're now in a position where we're willing to wait. And the reason we're willing to wait again, guys, because a lot of people are throwing the Tchouaméni shout in there and saying, oh, look what happened with Tchouaméni. We agreed a deal and blah, blah, blah. Madrid came in and blew us out the water. The only reason that happened was A, because of the Mbappe, and B, key element, key point to note. Tchouaméni wanted Madrid. Always. Even we were speaking to him, he never agreed to the deal 100% because on the back of his head in mind was, I want Madrid. One of the key factors, Joe, that makes me very confident without going above that, because you know how people say, oh, you said it's done. What gives me confidence above anything else in terms of wages, money, and all that is the kid apparently wants us. And that's huge, Joe. When a player decided, so for example, Virgil van Dijk, and Steve will back me up on this, Virgil van Dijk was courted by Man City, Man United, everyone. They were willing to give more money than us. Thiago Alcantara was offered way much more than we offered him and everything. But both of those players, Naby Keita was offered more by Barcelona at the time. In all three cases, they only wanted us. And that's where we thrive, and that's where we love. Where we love when a player shows dedication and understands the project. So I think he's a young kid with the most maturest head on his shoulders. That's what's really giving me confidence. Steve, your final thoughts on this before we move on?
Not much more to say. I totally agree with what you've just said. The money's there. This is the player that starts the next generation, Liverpool 2.0, in terms of the midfield. Do it. Go and ask the question. What have you got to lose? And if you can't get him this summer because they're worried about losing him, I'll ask you a quick question before we move on. Do you think £65 million was enough money for Erling Haaland, given what he is? Do you think they're happy with that transfer? Do you think that was enough money? I'm not convinced that that's a great deal.
That's my point. That's my point to Joe. It's not about one player. It's about money, because they're always forever circulating their squad, and they've been weakened.
And they've spent the money. They've spent the Haaland money on Adeyemi, on Haller, on one or two others as well. So that's gone. And they're now kind of in a position where they've lost one of the biggest front talents in world football, young lad with a whole football career in front of him. And they only got 60 million. And if you put that into context, Everton paid 45 million for Alex Iwobi, £15 million difference for Erling Haaland, who's up there, Alex Iwobi, who's nowhere near. That was a great deal for Manchester City and not a great deal for Dortmund. So there could be a cash issue they still need to address. So if you don't ask the question, you don't find out.
El Drago comes in with a super chat, and he
Thank
says,
you very much. There you go.
There you go. And he says, Dortmund this summer have spent almost 90 million if Haller signing done. I think that's pretty much done, and only received 65 million. These
not a club that can do that without selling.
I was just going, literally, you took the words out of my mouth. These clubs can't do these kind of things without making that money back. But look, we'll keep an eye on that. There's absolutely no doubt that there will be some conversations about that behind the scenes, and it's exciting. I genuinely feel confident. Not the fact that I think we can outbid and pay the highest wages, but the fact that Jude Bellingham wants us and he wants Klopp. And when that kind of thing takes place, you've got to be positive. But Joe, my man, there's only so much we can not ask you the hard-hitting questions about your beloved Leeds. You lose Phillips very early on in the window. Did you see it coming, A? And did you see him going to City as the move for him? How did you feel about that bombshell, first and foremost, if it was a bombshell?
Yeah, we knew it was happening. We knew it was happening with both him and Rafinha, really, on the Phillips thing. Quite surprised to see PSG throw the hat in the ring for a little bit. That was a bit of a mad one. I think that was a little bit of kidology because, Radrazani's close to that guy's owner. So I was a bit like, maybe he's trying to drive this price up or something. But listen, apparently, by all accounts, there were a lot of clubs in for him, but he only wanted one, and that was City. He wanted to work under Pep. It's conceivable that this time next year, Kalvin Phillips could have a Champions League and a Premier League medal to his thing, and he's only got a championship one so far. So the move makes sense for all parties, I guess. Of course, I'd have preferred him to stay because he's a home boy, and he's done a lot for us. He could have moved that first season in the Championship to Villa. They were offering to pay him X amount, and he turned it down. And we got in the Premier League, thankfully. So he's done that for us. He more than deserves the move, and I hope he goes on to win things. He's a top guy. And I think it just fits perfectly for Pep as well. The fact that he's worked under Bielsa. So he understands all the methods. There's a lot of the stuff that Bielsa does, Pep will do, in terms of making sure they hit certain weight measurements and all that sort of stuff. So he's had like 3 grueling years under Bielsa. So, he's ready for that step up for me. And I think as well, Grizz, he didn't look great in the Jesse Marsh system. He didn't look great in a double pivot. He just didn't, because
I was going to say, what's changed? What changed in that system then for him to not look good suddenly?
So obviously, previously, he would be in front of the back four on his own. He'd be able to spray raking balls out left and right. But what happened with Jesse, because we play so narrow and we play with the counter press, it was all a bit ping pong, and he didn't really have the time to get his foot on the ball and spray it out as he normally would like to do. So, a lot of Leeds fans agree that arguably he's easier replaceable than what Rafinha is. Rafinha's your goal getter. He's going to get you goals. He's going to get assists. Whereas, you can get a midfielder to do a decent enough job in replacing Kalvin Phillips in a double pivot under Jesse Marsh. So it made sense for all parties. I'm a little bit disappointed with the fee initially, 42 million plus add-ons.
I was gonna go into that. Yeah, what do you think of that?
Yeah, not great initially, but then I did a bit of a live stream and I had a look at it, and Fabinho went for 40 million, Rodri went for 50 odd, Kanté went for 30 million. Bruno Guimaraes went for 36. So I looked at it and thought, well, actually, it's probably not that bad. I mean, I could have done with a little bit more, but he didn't play a lot last year. There's an injury record there. And the key thing is, a bit like you were talking about Bellingham, he said to Leeds, I only want City. So you're stuck there. And it's a bit like Rafinha with Barca, You have to sort of meet City's demands then. And it seems like Rafinha just wants Barca. So I guess we'll talk about that. But listen, I'm happy for Kalvin. I hope he smashes it.
I think we've spoken about Rafinha, haven't we, Steve? Kalvin Phillips, about this move to City. I'm very okay with it, and Joe's not going to like this, but I'm very okay with it because I don't think he improves their first 11 at all. I don't think he's a patch on Rodri, but it definitely improves their squad. Now, if he's gone there as a squad player, and I agree he's never going to play Rodri and Phillips because that'll go against his principles, really. Pep doesn't play with 2 DMs as such. Is he going to get enough game time, Steve? How do you see that one panning out? That's a bit of a weird one, especially with the World Cup and everything. What do you think?
It is an interesting one. Obviously, he's a natural successor to Fernandinho, who's well past his best, without being disrespectful to him, because he's still a quality footballer. Of course, it is a squad move rather than a first team move for him. It doesn't lack endeavour or ambition, because Manchester City are one of the top 2 or 3 clubs in world football. I'm sure Joe would agree with that. It's an interesting move. I think Manchester City and Chelsea, particularly in the last 18 months to 2 years, have shown the rest of world football, and certainly in the Premier League, if you're going to be successful, you've got to have a squad, not 11 players. And it would seem, Grizz, that our team in the last 12 months has taken up that mantle as well, and we've got depth now. I agree with you. He doesn't improve their first 11. We looked at all the flowers that they gave to Diaz in his first season, saying how great he was. I actually put a lot of what Manchester City did that season down to Rodri playing in the 6 week in, week out, and providing the cover for the back 4 that made their job easier, quite frankly. Fernandinho was a yellow card every game. So Rodri takes a lot of credit for that improvement defensively for Manchester City for me. It's an interesting one, isn't it?
It's an interesting one.
Where does he play? Because he's not going to play in front of Rodri. Rodri is in the top 2 or 3 number 6s in world football right now. Kalvin Phillips isn't. Doesn't mean he can't get to a higher level. Doesn't mean he's reached the top of his ceiling, because he clearly hasn't. When you go and play with better players, you should improve. And that remains to be seen. And we'll have a look and see how he gets on. Fair play to him. He's got to move to one of the biggest clubs of world football. He's going to have to be patient. He's going to have to take his time. But it's City's a team that can be 3 or 4-0 up in an hour. And with 5 substitutes, you bring him on, you rest Rodri. he manages the game out. And I think Liverpool are going to do that with the young right back that we've bought, just as an aside to what we're saying. And when the games are won, we'll give Trent half an hour off and get the young lad on, because we don't need to, because we've got 5 subs. So I think that's playing a massive part in Guardiola.
A lot of coaches thinking. Not only Guardiola,
it's in their mind. So I think it's a bold move for him, because he's going there with no guarantees of playing football. You kind of have to admire that. He's backing himself. And if your players are backing themselves when they move to your football club, if you're turning up there knowing you're not guaranteed, but you still back yourself, then you've got a good player in your squad that's not going to give you any trouble. He's going to knuckle down and try and end game time. And I think that's a real positive for Manchester City, obviously.
Absolutely. Selection with a super chat. Hey, Selection, hope you're good, my friend. He says, Grizz, I think what you miss and what worries me about missing Bellingham is football situations are very fluent. I think you mean fluid. Bellingham can change his mind at any given time. I know that, bro. Like, what can we influence about that? What can we do about that? He can change his mind even if we went for him now. What's to say if we go for him now and he changes his mind and says, you know what? No, I'll hold on. I'll hold on till next year. I owe Dortmund another season. They've been so good to me. They brought me over as a 17-year-old. They paid 25, 30 million for me. Let me give them one more season, because I'm like that. The same way I'm speaking so highly of him as a mature kid with good family around him, a good advice around him, they're not going to want to ruffle the feathers at Dortmund, because Dortmund have been so good to him. So it works both ways, doesn't it? I agree with you. He may change his mind, but there's nothing we can do if he changes his mind at any given stage, any player. But of course, as always, I appreciate the super chat. I'm sorry to stay on you, Joe. Unfortunately,
right.
just when you're over, like, was you a captain?
No, he wasn't captain. No.
Who was? Oh, Cooper's your captain, isn't
it? Yeah.
Then we get this, don't we?
Uh-huh.
Your other star, mate. Your star boy, I'd say.
Yeah,
your
definitely,
absolute star boy. Rafinha first is very heavily linked with Barcelona. Then we find out Barcelona can't afford him. Then Arsenal are favourites. Just when Arsenal fans up and down the country and the world start making welcome videos and all that, all right? Chelsea coming through the back door and think they have a deal agreed. Boom, boom, boom. Just as they're about to say, here we go, Barcelona think they're back in it or not out of it. What is going on? First, what do you think about Rafinha leaving you guys in the same window as Kalvin Phillips? And B, where do you think he ends up?
So as for them leaving in the same window, it's not ideal. Like, it's the club have always said we want to follow the Leicester model, yeah. Leicester though only let one go, didn't they? You know, like when they let Kante go, they held on to Mahrez for another year. I know that didn't work out for them. It went terribly because he was kicking and screaming. But for us to lose 2 talismanic figures in the same window is not ideal. But I think the club were prepared and set up to do this. I think they want to do it. I know that might sound a bit mad, but they didn't sign either on new deals when there was the opportunity to do so. You
Why?
Know, I don't understand. You know, there was talk of it, and then it just went really cold. So I don't know if they're looking at it now that Bielsa's moved on. You know, we do need a bigger squad. We need Premier League ready, not Premier League potential. We had a 15-year-old on our bench at one point last season, young Archie Gray. So we needed a bigger squad, and maybe they're going to use the money that comes into to do that. And we've been linked with some exciting prospects across Europe. But on the Rafinha thing, it's got to the point now, Grizz, where I don't care where he goes. I just want him to go. Like, as much as that sounds like disrespectful to him, because without him, we won't be in the Premier League. That's a fact. But it's like, I'm sick. Like, Barcelona said in January he was going to go there. I think Deco was banking on us going down. He was out there saying, listen, you'll get this guy for as little as 25 million, because there was a release clause in there, but we didn't go down. So that's where it throws it up. And the fact that we've sold Kalvin for 42, 45, Leeds have a stronger bargaining chip and could say, we've already got our money. We don't need to sell him. So if you want to buy him, pay the 65. I think Arsenal's originally bid was like 30 to 40, which is a joke. I'm sorry to say, people say that he's not worth it. If Sancho and Pepe are going for 70 odd million, you've got a player in Rafinha that's the best player outside of the top 6 numbers wise, and he's done it for 2 seasons in the Premier League. So don't tell me he's not worth that amount, in my opinion. I think it's crazy talk to even question it. So Arsenal weren't going to pay. Then Chelsea have come in, and we're all thinking, right, that's done. Then all of a sudden, Deco's out there twerking again for Barcelona, and apparently they've got a £205 million investment coming in. So maybe that one's not over. But what I'm glad for, and I'm glad for Arsenal, is for them to put the bid in, because it's then set the wheels in motion, and we might find that Barcelona might come back. And if he goes there, I think Rafinha's heart's set on Barcelona. His agent's Deco. I believe, I don't know if he's related or a very, very close friend to Ronaldinho, like Ronaldinho is his idol kind of thing. So it all just makes sense for this Barcelona move. But they've got to pay the cash, and if they aren't, then he'll go to Chelsea. And we don't get on with Chelsea, and it's not ideal. But listen, I just want it done so we can start getting our squad ready for the season, man.
But you know what I mean, guys? This is exactly what I was referring to in terms of where the player wants to go. Is so crucial and important. So, for example, replace Rafinha with Bellingham. Arsenal are coming in with bids. Chelsea are coming in with the exact money Leeds want. We know Chelsea ain't got an issue with wages as well. Yet he's reluctant. Yet he's hesitant. And he's telling his agent, Deco, please, I want, excuse me, I want Barcelona. Steve, this is what happens in the modern day and age. Footballers and agents have a mind of their own. And not all of them want to go where the highest bidder is, the highest wages is. Some of them have dreams and aspirations of playing for a certain club. And this is so apparent in Rafinha's case, because he's trying his fucking hardest to just stay out of Arsenal and Chelsea's graphs. And Chelsea and Arsenal fans have to accept that that's the way it is. Like, you can love him when he signed for you, but you can tell, just like the Frankie de Jong situation with Barcelona and United, the kid doesn't want to leave. He's saying, please keep me. Rafinha's got his heart set on Barcelona, but it's obvious that the money situation's a bit tight there. Yeah. How do you see this panning out, Steve?
Well, if you ever wander back through Barcelona's recent and even further history, there's a love affair with South Americans, particularly Brazilians. We saw it with Philip Coutinho, who we thought was going to come to us and be a superstar for many, many years. Couldn't turn down the lure of the Spanish giants. Similar lifestyle. Spanish football and South American football is very similar in terms of it's quite slow until the final third, and it's a bit more explosive. It doesn't surprise me. We've got another Brazilian clamoring for a move to Barcelona. It's standard. Look at the names have been there: Rivaldo, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Alves, Dani Alves. The names go on and on and on, and it's Romario. There's another one. They're all quality footballers who all went on to become legends at Barcelona, and that's kind of like the Holy Grail. And if you're being honest, and all three of us would agree with this, I'd be surprised if anybody doesn't. If Arsenal come knocking on your door, and Barcelona come knocking on your door, you're only going to go to Barcelona. Yeah. Because when you sit down in the cold light of day at the end of your football career, irrespective of Barcelona's position they're in now, and they're in a bit of a mess, and they're going through transitions, being kind to them, by the way, then you can still say I played for Barcelona. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
The Chelsea thing is different because guaranteed Champions League football, guaranteed to be challenging at the right end. Arsenal's a project. Chelsea's a lot closer to being where they think they need to be. I still don't think Chelsea challenge City or Liverpool next season, but moving from Leeds to Chelsea is a notable step up for a young man in his career. Guarantee if he goes to Chelsea, there'll be a release clause in there that Barcelona ever come knocking again, because he just wants to do that. So let him do it. Let him go there. If your heart's not in it, don't sign him, because he's not going to give you what he's going to give to Barcelona if he goes there.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you there. As Drago11 sends in a super chat, says every team will need their squad, especially pre-World Cup. 16 Premier League games, 6 Champions League games, and I think 3 EFL Cup rounds. All that in 4 months. All players will get minutes. It's going to be mental, isn't it, Joe? We've never seen anything like this. It's unprecedented. Like, how are we going to have a World Cup in the middle of the bloody season? Like, look,
I can't wait, Grizz. I can't wait.
I was going to say, how's your squad faring up then? So you've lost. Is there anyone else that we've forgotten that's majorly leaving? And then you can tell us about the incomings.
No, your only leavings will be them two. We ain't got a big enough squad, mate. You know, Bielsa, he just had such a small squad. You know how it was. That's why they were battered and bruised by the end of it, and the change had to happen, I guess. But no, they'll be the two major exits. We've already brought three in. Brendan Aronson from Salzburg, Rasmus Christensen, a right back from Salzburg, and Marc Roca from Bayern Munich. By all accounts, I mean, he was great prior to that move to Bayern Munich, but struggled to get him in front of Kimmich and Goretzka, which it's tough for anybody. But the kids we've been linked to, to come in to replace Rafinha and stuff is Cody Gakpo over at PSV. Charles de Ketelaere at Club Bruges, which is another one, but apparently he favours AC Milan. And then it'll either be Tyler Adams or Mo Kamara. I think the preference is for Mo Kamara, but I think he might be replacing Basuma at Brighton. So we'll have to see. But I think, 6 players in, I think that'll be us. And I think we'll be all right next season. Listen, after last season and the pain I went through, just give me a boring season mid-table. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? But
all day long. Yeah. I'm telling you again, I told you last season you'll be all right. And I know it was close. But the players that you've mentioned that you've brought in, Aronson, very highly thought of. The right back, Rasmus, again, very highly thought of. And who was the third one you said?
Marc Roca.
Marc Roca, again, such high aspirations when he was taken by Bayern Munich, a cultured central midfield player by all accounts. And I rate your manager. I rate your coach. I know he's got a lot of positivity about him. He's very enthusiastic, and he's got a way of playing that I think will suit the Premier League, Joe. I genuinely do. I think it's going to be a bit helter-skelter, and you expect that with Leeds anyway because you're used to it with Bielsa. But I genuinely think a couple more additions to that, like the players you mentioned, I think you'll be all right. I think you'll be sound. But, wish you all the best, man. That's all we can say. Steve, are you okay with the signings that they've made and the names they've been linked to? How do you think Leeds fare up after losing 2 of their absolute crown jewels?
I was thinking before we came on, how do you go from narrowly missing the trapdoor, selling your crown jewels, and then be expected to survive the following season? That's an obvious question. You use the money and you recruit well, and you strengthen all of your areas, which they've got to. I still think you need to buy a number 9. You really do need to buy someone who's going to get you goals alongside the obvious suspects. Bamford had a great first season and then an injury last season and was really not involved too much in the season. And that proves you can't rely on one man. Be interested to see what they do. I'm not convinced about the manager. I'm just not. Just something about the way he speaks about football that would worry me if I was a Leeds fan. And not because he uses euphemisms and phrases from America. It's just the way. If I wanted to bring somebody into my football club to stand in front of my players and talk to them for 5 minutes and make them feel great because they've got a way of using words, then Jesse Marsh would be a man because he says the right things at the right time. I don't know. Probably didn't have long enough, so I might be being a bit unfair on him. I don't know if he's the answer.
To be honest, I don't think you are, mate. I'm not his biggest fan. I can't lie. I'm not his biggest fan. I don't know if it was because I was spoiled for so long under Bielsa. When he came in, we played so narrow, yet we had an abundance of wide players. He played Rafinha at right wing back at times, which was just ludicrous. It was interesting because the last 2 games that we had, that we got a point against Brighton and 1 down at Brentford, he sort of ripped up his philosophy and went with the 4-2-3-1 that we'd seen under Bielsa, and we played with width and we managed to get points out of the games. I'm not too sure on him myself, but what I will say, it's now a new squad. We've reset. We've managed to stay up. Let's see how we get on now. You know what I mean? But the jury's still out for me as well, Paul. I'm not too keen, but we'll see.
No, exactly. We got to give him a chance. This is going to be his first full preseason, and he's the kind of coach that needs a preseason. He needs to get on the training ground with a team. He's one of those, So let's see how it goes. The next story that I wanted to speak on, people, is not that one, this one. Yeah. Tottenham have already scheduled new round of talks, our man Fabrizio says, for Richarlison. Wow. Work in progress with Everton, but deal structure has to be discussed again. No issues on the personal terms. I can see this happening, Joe. I think Richarlison is, to me, smells of a Conte player. Now, if you're going to ask me to expand and explain, I couldn't really. But it's just, it's a feeling. It's a feeling I get. It's like, you're one of those feelings that you get, like Richarlison, works his socks off, nasty side to him, win at all costs, do anything you got to do. And then you see Conte showing that same passion on the sidelines. I think they're a match made in heaven. Yeah. If this was to happen, you see it as a good signing. Do you get it? Where does he play for Spurs? I don't know.
Yeah, I do get it. I spoke to Matt Hayes about the Rafinha stuff, and originally because they were linked as well, and obviously the hype of getting Rafinha, and then when you actually strip it back, Richarlison's more of what they need, just because he can play a number of positions and can deputise for Kane in a sense, because normally they've always tried to just bring in an out-and-out number 9 who's happy to sit on the bench, for 38 games and get the odd game here and there. And let's be honest, I mean, there's not that many available out there really of the required level anyway, but not that many that will want to just sit on the bench. Whereas Richarlison, because he can give them a number of positions, but also coming for Kane, and like the 5 subs just being mentioned, he's probably what they need, He's probably what they need over a Rafinha, for example. So I think it'd be a decent signing. I don't know how much it'll be. I've seen some crazy fees banded about, which are a bit high. I was reading yesterday, Anthony Gordon and Richarlison in a double swoop for 100 million or something, which I was like, wow, that's a lot.
So the Gordon one, I think he's look. Me and Steve will tell you, as Liverpool supporters, we hate him.
I can't stand him either.
He's an absolute little diving rat.
Yeah.
But he's a fantastic prospect. He's got something about him. I tell you that for now. He's one to keep an eye on. Everton would be mad to get rid of him, but obviously their situation is such that they may not be able to refuse a big, huge offer. Richarlison, the figures being quoted are around the £50 million mark. Okay. Steve, do you make sense of it? You can't be a fan, but are you a fan of the player? Like, in terms of, can you see him stylistically being a good fit for Conte at Spurs?
First of all, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of the man. Never mind the footballer. To be honest with you, first and foremost, I think he's got a lot of growing up to do. Some of the stuff he does around social media and commenting on other players has been poor. Could he fit in at Tottenham? Absolutely, because he can play right across that front line.
Yeah, that's a good point by Joe. Yeah.
The Gordon one makes no sense because he's left-sided, and unless they're planning to do something with Son, which would make no sense either, Gordon goes to sit on the bench, and that's not something really that a player of that age and kind of his breakout season last year at Everton shouldn't be followed up by long spells on the bench. I don't think that's a great move for him, to be honest with you. Why would Everton sell those 2 players? We've just had the same conversation about Leeds selling their players. The link with Arsenal for Calvert-Lewin doesn't go away either. So potentially you've got 3 of your top players that are worth anything, and you've got clubs sniffing around them. And Everton didn't go down because the sides that went down were worse than them. They should have gone down in any other season. They would have gone down. Leeds were better than Everton, and Leeds nearly didn't get out of it themselves. So why would you sell your top players? Richarlison, 50 million, probably about the going rate. that's not far off what Everton paid for him. So I don't really understand whether that makes good business for Everton, because it really doesn't, because they're up for sale. They've got the ground to build. They've got a rethink about certain members of the playing staff. They've taken Tarkowski from Burnley. I'm not sure Tarkowski improves their back four at all. It's just another Michael Keane. That's all he is. He's exactly the same type of player as Michael Keane. So, more importantly, would I take £100 million for those two players and give it to Frank Lampard to spend? Absolutely not. No.
There is that as well. There is that as well. I know Joe's a massive fan of Lampard. Joe, they're one of those clubs where they could be in a whole heap of shit, couldn't they? If Calvert-Lewin is sold, Richarlison is sold, they were already struggling with goals. Trying to take my like red side of the hat off. I think they could be in trouble, right?
Potentially, mate. Yeah, I hope so as well. Not because I dislike Everton. I'm not a fan of Lampard, but I'm just thinking from a selfish standpoint as well. We need as many poor teams as possible so we don't enter into a scrap at any point. But I think I mean, it depends what business they do, doesn't it? I understand the move.
What have they done so far? Just the defender, you said, Steve. Tarkowski.
But even that's not done yet, is it? Like, I don't think he's actually come in yet. I don't think. I think he is going to, but
then you've got Vincent Kompany in his ear saying, "I'm one of the greatest defenders in the Premier League era. Stick with me, I'll improve your game. Give me 12 months." That's what I'd be saying.
Yeah. I'm just having a look now. Yeah, they have none in, one out. John Joe Kenny released. The rest is just the same. So, I think they've been linked to Harry Winks. 2025, but even that 20-25 million, I'm like, that's crazy buy for that price. I think personally, I just know that Lampard's not the guy. I think there's some that still back him, and a lot of them are Chelsea fans. But for me, he's not the guy. So I just don't. I don't know. I don't know what Everton do. I mean, they've sold the stadium rights for a stadium that's not even been built yet, right? Like, how's that a thing? How can you do that? I don't know. It's madness. So. We'll wait and see. But back to the Richarlison thing, I think he gives Spurs a bit of edge as well that they don't have. As much as I dislike him, they're all a bit nicey, aren't they? Whereas if you throw him in there,
do you think? I think Kane and Son have got a bit of nasty in them.
They're all more on the sly. Kane's more on the sly, whereas Richarlison's in your face kind of vibe, isn't he? So,
yeah, I get you. Yeah. I get you. I mean, I think Son's snideness is so underrated. People need to get on it.
He's too nice, isn't he? That's why. But like smiling, but Kane, yeah, I hear it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, but I get your point. You know what? The more you spoke about Richarlison and how he can sort of fit in across the front three and sort of the way Conte likes them to be fluid, and he can step in for Kane because Kane does need a rest. He can't play every single game. So the more you speak about that, it makes sense. But is Richarlison really a guy that's going to not moan when he's not playing? Like, he's going to kick up a fuss, and the last person you want to kick up a fuss is with Conte. So that's one to keep an eye on. I think that's pretty much it, lads. I think we've covered everything else. Have I missed out anything else? People in the chat, 20 million Harry Winks, we've discussed that. Ahmed says, what do you guys make up of the Neymar rumours? Chelsea better fit or Man City better for him? I think the Premier League's a stinking fit for Neymar on the whole, but any ideas, guys? What's a good for Neymar? Because he's obviously being bombed out of PSG.
You were bang on the money. I think it was it. I was listening to you on Tuesday, 90 minute. I think when you were talking about Neymar on there, just saying like he's just a waste of a bit of a talent, really. You know what I mean? He could have really been up there with the best, couldn't he? But I don't know.
Talent wise, I love him, Joe.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here and saying, oh, he's got nothing. He's just a bag of tricks. Yeah. To be able to do those bag of tricks, you still got to have talent, fuck's sake. Like, the shit he can do is unreal. He's just not elevated himself from... All right, I remember what I said now. The move from Barcelona to PSG, he ruined his legacy, Joe. He ruined his legacy because there he could have been an absolute world elite star. Instead, he's been known for for not turning up in training.
Mercenary, innit?
Mercenary. Do you know what I mean? And he's ruined his legacy. I think the Premier League's the last place he'd want to come to.
I totally agree. You'd just be, your whole team talk would be, get after him, wind him up, niggle him, annoy him, get after him, wind him up, niggle him, annoy him.
And he'd fall for it every time.
Yeah, and then he'd go back to Brazil a month earlier for his sister's birthday, wouldn't he? Because he wouldn't be able to handle it. So.
Oh God, don't go there, Steve. Don't go there. Do you know?
Just what's your opinion on Chelsea? Because I was of the opinion like this Todd Bowley running the gaff. I'm not too sure it's going to work. And then obviously they get linked to Rafinha, Sterling, and all that. And I was like, oh, maybe I've gone too early. But there's a case for them struggling for top 4 for me. I know that might sound a bit wild, just with all the squad turnover. I think, is Todd Bowley running it the right way? Like, I was listening to someone earlier and they were saying, oh, he's having so much fun, etc. But I don't know. I think you need footballing people around the place.
I agree. You look at the Lukaku deal where they paid 97 million for him to take them to the point where they go to be Premier League champions, and the guy doesn't turn up. Arguably the biggest flop in Premier League history. Yeah, they send him out the door in the summer for £7 million loan fee, with certain objectives to be met for Inter to buy him back. That's shocking business on anybody's books. Got to add to the fact that they're now running the club as an orthodox football club. They're not bankrolled by a sugar daddy. So I'm not sure if some of these moves they're making for some of these players are PR. Empty vessels make the most noise. Keep the fans happy by doing what Arsenal and Spurs did for years, which is, do you remember when we nearly signed this player and when we nearly signed that player? That seemed to be a theme, didn't it, for both of those? I think Chelsea are going to go through a strange phase in their life. Yeah. They're losing 2, maybe 3, even 4 defenders in the summer, and they're going trying to buy a right winger. So it makes no sense to me. It's not,
and a left winger, and a left winger,
and it's not great business sense, is it? Sterling and Rafinha come to your club. You go out to start the first game. You look backwards, and you've got Sarr, you've got Shabalala, and you've got
Thiago Silva, isn't it? I think,
Thiago Silva, and
47 or something.
Every team in the Premier League will have some of that. We're dying out on that. Liverpool and City have just signed 2 really dynamic centre forwards who will keep Chelsea alive if they don't do something. So Chelsea fans need to recognise, for me, that they're going to go for a difficult stage being run properly. And also they've got massive work to do, but they're looking in the wrong places for me.
Right. Football's cyclical, innit? Football goes in cycle. We had to deal with Man United in the 90s, yeah? Leeds had their time in 70, you had your time, and it's moving. And I look at Chelsea now and I think, maybe it's their time, and I can't stand them. So I'm like, I'm hoping that now that they haven't got Abramovich bankrolling them, that we might see a little bit of a fall from.
I think Spurs may well overtake Chelsea in terms of who challenges for 3rd place, because the top 2 are miles ahead of everybody else. Yeah,
I like what Arsenal are doing as well. I know Grizz is a fan of Grizz Teta, but I like what Arsenal are doing as well. I do. I think they might surprise a few people.
The amount of money that's going to be spent by the end of the window, the amount of turnover of players for a lot of the sides, it's going to be a massive, massive, big domino effect. I think we're in for a cracking season again in terms of excitement. Like, I can see Man City, Liverpool clear favourites, but unlike Steve, I don't think we're going to be miles clear this time. I genuinely think it's going to be closer. I'm not saying it's going to be close, but it's going to be closer. And I think the rest of the league is going to be very compact and tight. Just before we go, Ahmed says, Grizz, academy players to look for this season. James Balagizi, for me, always a standout. It just looks head and shoulders above everything in the kids, but he just needs a bit of luck with injuries and everything. One to look out for. Just a bit of an exclusive. Why not? My channel, I can break a little exclusive. Remember I said break the internet? Well, Owen Beck, the left back, is joining Famalicão in Portugal. Season-long loan. How's that for breaking the internet? Don't say I don't tell you exclusive. So Owen Beck.
We can all go to bed now that we know that, mate.
There you go. Owen Beck, the young left back, who I think is a wonderful little player, and we've got good high hopes for. He's joining Famalicão in Portugal. So many clubs came in for him, but we've gone for him to go in Portugal for a loan, which is interesting because We love the Portuguese league, don't we, people? But yeah, that's one to keep an eye on. Anything else for anyone else?
Nope.
No,
We're good to go. Joe, absolute wonderful chatting football with you. Always a pleasure. Love chatting football with you. Hope to get you on many times throughout the season. Hope you've enjoyed your time on as well.
I have, mate. Thank you very much.
Where can people find you? We need to plug your shit, man. People need to go over and get, because Joe's one of those proper old school passionate
passion merchant.
Passion merchant. But people love that. It's all about passion. It's genuine passion. There could be fake passion when you're just doing fake outrage and fake moods and just for likes and hits and subscribes. You're one of those proper, genuine, passionate fans, like my brother Saeed from Man United.
Yes.
When you're hurt, you can see you're hurt.
Yeah.
And I love that. When you're happy, you can see you're happy, and it's pure, genuine. So shout out your stuff, bro.
Thank you very much. Yeah, just your football show. Loads of Leeds United content, transfer content, etc. And I do watch-alongs of Leeds games when I'm not at the games, and also other games as well. So just come on over, man. It's good chat. I get quite a lot of Liverpool fans, to be fair, just from being on your show and on other shows as well. So I think it's because we have that shared hatred for Man United and Chelsea. So it is what it is.
Steve said to me something in private just before you came on, and it's spot on, Steve, isn't it? Because we are very similar like that, the two fan bases, Steve, wasn't it? You were saying just before Joe came and joined us. So absolutely. But of course, as usual, Steve, we catch up in a bit. People, this has been the Daily Grizz. I still haven't worked out outro, but you know how it is, man. It's all about the content, really. We out of here. Take care.